One of the most surprising games of 2021 so far for me has been Monster Hunter Stories 2: Wings of Ruin. I enjoy the core Monster Hunter games, but I didn't really know what to expect with this one. I knew it kind of played like Pokemon, and that's about it. However, after playing for dozens of hours, I've completely fallen in love with this game, and I think you will too. So in today's video, I'll be sharing with you 7 reasons why I think you need to be playing Monster Hunter Stories 2 if you haven't already. The first reason is the character creator. This is one of the first things you do in the game, and it's one of my favorite parts of it. Now when you begin, you can choose either male or female, and all the options are super detailed, like what kind of eyes you want, what kind of makeup you want to put on, mouths, different expressions you can have, and great hair. Normally, that's one of my biggest complaints in character creators. The hair doesn't look good enough, and I don't know if it's because this has an anime aesthetic and they get a little wacky and it just matches that looked better, but I really liked it. What's also kind of cool is that you can have two-tone hair, so you can give different highlights, so you can kind of have one color for your tips and one color for the rest of it. I really like that, and I changed that up quite a bit during my playthrough. Also, I kind of love that you can have these really weird options for your eyes. There's even that troublemaker fang that sometimes you see in animes, and here's a look at something that I put together. Now in my playthrough, I played as a female, but I also designed a male character just for fun. And what's neat is you can change your hair and your makeup anytime in your room through your playthrough. The second reason is the gear. Now anyone familiar with the core Monster Hunter games will know that that's kind of the main loop, is the gear. Now if you're not familiar, basically the core loop of Monster Hunter games is you defeat monsters, they drop parts, you use those parts to craft gear and weapons to make better gear so you can fight better monsters. Now in the core Monster Hunter games, the gear is very granular. You build individual pieces like helmets, chest pieces, so on and so forth. But in Monster Hunter Stories 2, they simplify it a bit and they make it just a full body armor set. To me, I think this is a much more approachable, easygoing, and streamlined experience, and I kind of prefer it. And it kind of creates an addicting loop. You get one piece of gear and it looks really cool, and then, well, I find a new monster and I want to see what that looks like. So you just keep fighting the monster until you get all the parts, until you just get the gear that you really want. One of my favorite parts of RPGs is customizing my character to just how I want them to look, and so I loved collecting all these different armor sets. Now what's cool about Monster Hunter Stories 2 is once you get to a certain city, you can create layered armor. Now layered armor is basically like you can keep the stats of one gear under it but look like a certain other piece of gear, if that makes any sense. And the other thing that's kind of cool about this is you can change particular colors of the armor set, so you can really customize the look of your character to just how you want it to be. Reason number 3 is the combat. Now, Monster Hunter Stories 2 is very different from the core Monster Hunter games. The core Monster Hunter games are kind of more action-oriented, but this is a turn-based RPG. Most combat is just you and one of your monsties, but occasionally throughout the game you'll have a partner character and their monstie that'll fight with you. The battle system is sort of a rock, paper, scissors-like system where you pick one of 3 attack types: speed, power, and technical, and then one of 3 weapon types: blunt, slashing, and piercing. Now this seems kind of basic, but you have to pay attention to what the monsters are doing, what kind of attacks they have, so you can attack with the opposite patterns and the right weapon. Now if you have the wrong weapon attack type and you match up with a monster, like you kind of go head to head, this could cancel your attack, but if you have the right attack type, it could cancel their attack. And what's neat is their attack types and their weaknesses are always on screen if you hit it in the right way. So this is a super welcome design choice, so you don't have to keep it all in your head, it's just right there and you have to just execute the perfect strategy. Now it's important to have a variety of weapon types because for some of the bigger monsters, they have weaknesses to particular body parts. For example, like wings could be weak to bows, but then their head could be weak to swords, so you really have to have one of each weapon type. Now for those that are coming from the core Monster Hunter games, you don't have the full array of all the different weapons. You have 6 to choose from. You have the sword and shield, the great sword, the hammer, the hunting horn, the gun lance, and the bow. Now for me personally, I went with the great sword, bow, and the hammer. Again, it's important to have one of each attack type, so you have all the different options depending on what kind of monster you come across. Now the other thing that's pretty cool are kinship attacks. So basically you will ride your monstie in battle and you can team up to do a super attack. It's really neat. The other thing is this battle system is very flexible. You can change the battle speed to be up to 3 times speed, you can swap out monsters mid-fight, and you can also swap out weapons mid-fight. To me, it's just very approachable and very enjoyable. Reason number 4 is the monstie collecting. Now, as I mentioned earlier, Monster Hunter Stories 2 is kind of like a Pokemon game, and it definitely is. Now, to begin the game, you're given a starter monstie. You can't choose it. This isn't like Pokemon where you choose different types. You're just given one, and you find more monstie eggs throughout the world to build up your roster. Now you find these eggs in monster dens. They're kind of like small dungeons, and you fight monsters along the way and you pick up resources, and then at the end there will be an egg. Now you can kind of grab an egg a couple different times, like maybe you pick one up and it's not the one that you like, or maybe it's not shiny enough, it's not a rare type. So you can pick it up a couple times, and then once you pick it up, you have to make a run for it. Now don't worry, you don't need to run all the way to the beginning of the dungeon with this egg going super slow. You just need to run a little bit outside of the little area where the nest is. And then once you get back in town, you can hatch them and you get to see what you get. And honestly, this was another addicting part of the game because it was always fun to see what kind of new monster I got. Now you can sort of guess when you pick up the egg based on the color of the monster that you've seen in the game, and the colors of the egg are pretty similar. And like Pokemon, you're gonna wanna catch all the different monsters and build up your roster of favorites. And what's neat is different monsters have different unique abilities that help you explore the world. Some can break rocks so you can get to different areas, some help you climb up vines, and eventually you'll be able to fly through the world, which is just so much fun. It's like in JRPGs when you finally get the airship and you get to explore the world in a whole new way. And reason number 5 is its jolly vibe. Monster Hunter Stories 2 just has this infectious positivity all throughout the game. It'll just make you genuinely smile. All the characters are smiling and they have a great time, and they have these super expressive animations. Playing it will just put you in a good mood. And also, the game is beautiful. It has so many vibrant colors, varied locales like jungles, deserts, and frozen tundras. I'm a big town guy when it comes to RPGs, so I love just walking around, talking to the different citizens, seeing what different pockets there are, different corners, whatever items I can find around the world. It was fun simply just walking around. Now, I wasn't sure where to mention this in this video, but the game runs great on Switch. It's a rock solid 30 frames per second. I only had a few major frame drops, and weirdly enough, they were in cutscenes, never in gameplay. And these cutscenes were very simple. It was super zoomed in on characters. I don't think I have any footage to showcase this, but it's very, very minimal, and I never really had any problems to complain about. Reason number 6 is the story. Core Monster Hunter games barely have a story, they're just sort of excuses to make you fight increasingly tougher monsters. But in Monster Hunter Stories 2, it has a real story, and it's good. Really good. It's full of charming, relatable characters. Naviru, your feline companion, mainly spouts exposition and plays the comedy relief, but he never gets annoying. He's always positive and cheering you on. And I won't spoil anything, but there's some surprisingly heartbreaking and tender moments. I really didn't expect it from a game like this. One other thing that I found really heartwarming was your relationship with your Rathalos. I thought it would be cheesy, but it's actually believable. Whatever my character was feeling in the game, I also felt as the player. This rarely happens in games for me, so I really have to applaud Capcom here. And finally, reason number 7 is it's got a free demo. If you're curious about this game, you don't know if you want to spend the full $60 or whatever it's priced at right now, you can play the free demo, and what's cool is it starts you from the very beginning of the game. You can do the character creation, you can walk around for a while, do some quests, fight monsters. You can play for probably 4 hours straight from the beginning of the game. And what's cool about this is you can continue your file right where you left off with the demo. So if you're having a great time, boom, you can just pick up where you left off and continue your adventure. Monster Hunter Stories 2 is easily in my top 5 favorite games of the year so far, and it's almost pushing for my game of the year. Now, if you want to hear about my current game of the year, check out this video right here about Ys 9 Monstrum Nox. Recently it came to Switch and PC, and if you haven't played it already, you're definitely missing out. And if you haven't already, be sure to subscribe for more weekly JRPG content. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you next time.